Hello, everybody. This is Don Austin, your superintendent, and thanks for joining us tonight with our second edition of Backstage with the Superintendent. Joining us tonight will be the new Gunn High School principal, Wendy Stratton, new Paly principal, Brent Klein, and Greene Middle School math teacher, Josh Spira. So thanks to each of those for joining us tonight for a few reasons. First of all, they're going to have some really interesting things to talk about. Next, it won't be me talking for the full hour this time. We've disabled comments for tonight for a few reasons. Uh, they may look like they're going through, but they're not going to be read. Um, First of all, it just flat out didn't work. It's hard enough to speak into a computer screen in an empty office without trying to read anonymous comments from 700 viewers. Actually, that's all the reasoning we have why we're not going to use it in the future. It just flat out doesn't work. So thank you for those who tried last time. We tried to scroll through. It's just not practical. If this is backstage with the superintendent, then let's really try to go to backstage on some things. I want to share a few things that we're working on, including some things that we have no good answer for. Um, that sounds weird, right? Doesn't that sound weird at this time? I'm your superintendent. We're going to share things we don't have answers for. But if you listen to the news on any other topic right now, there are lots of people talking that don't have answers to every question that's coming up. Graduation letters went out today to high school seniors from the two principals, and I'd like to hit a couple of the important parts of what went out. Uh, Most importantly, we got to remember that graduation for our seniors is for our seniors. And because of that, we listened to them. We did some outreach to our seniors, and overwhelmingly, they told us something that I think, quite honestly, is not going to align with what our parents may want. And our students told us they are not interested in a virtual graduation. Now, I understand that the Air Force Academy got some attention through the way that they just handled graduation, that they had spacing that was able to hold up, and they were able to hold a graduation ceremony that looks something like what we may expect. We don't have that same luxury here for several reasons. Most importantly, the county has outlawed it. They've said no large gatherings. So no school district in our county will be holding graduation ceremonies, even with spacing in place. It's just not going to happen. Next, we had some requests from people about doing things like drive-by, drive-through, processional type ceremonies. Again, all of which were declared um, unlawful, and school districts were told they cannot proceed in that manner. So what's left? We've decided with our students that we're going to do a week-long celebration, a celebration of our senior class, and we're going to have a delayed, postponed graduation for sometime in December. So when in December? We don't know yet. But it'll be at a time when our students are more likely than not back from college. That is, if colleges have students on their campuses in the fall either. So these are tough times right now, and it's a real challenge to know who is or is not going to be on campuses, whether they're ours or colleges. But we're looking to postpone for December. Started brainstorming today with our principals. It's not the first time we've talked about it, but it's the first time it's been a single standalone topic about what reopening could look like. Our county public health department is talking about coming back with social distancing requirements. Our governor shares lots of thoughts during press conferences, and sometimes we'll say things off the top of his head like, well, if we come back, we probably shouldn't have more than 12 people in a classroom, maybe A/B shifts, maybe online blended learning. And that's all great, except for nobody can figure out how to implement that well right now. So we're brainstorming with some of the best people in our profession, but to think that there are easy answers around any of those things would be, I think, showing a lack of understanding for the complexities of the problem. We have 250 teachers that have their own kids in our schools. AB schedules become problematic for the very second we start. And that's talking about teachers. That's not talking about our families that have to go back and work during the day and will have childcare issues. Childcare, by the way, that even our childcare providers haven't figured out how to come back with social spacing. Think about this. I was reminded of this today in a meeting with our principals. Can we require, and to the best of our ability, do a good job of maintaining space with 4th and 5th graders? Debatable, but possible. Are we going to tell 5-year-olds, I'm sorry, let's get out of 5th graders, go to 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds, welcome to school. By the way, stand 6 feet away from everybody. Do not have contact. Do not go talk to your new friends. Do not walk up to people. Do not touch things in your classroom. Don't share balls outside. Don't bump up against each other walking to classes. That's craziness. And if we're going to be backstage here together, we need to call that what it is. Unobtainable. Okay, so what are we going to do at our high schools and our middle schools? We're working on that. You know, the idea of blended learning, not in its current format, in our crisis learning format, but in a real blended learning format, you know, there's probably some things we can do. But even that will be full of challenges. What do we do if we return in the fall and there's no performing arts? There's no sports. There's none of those things. There's no assemblies. There's no pep assembly. Like you go into the gym and you cheer for your school and you build community, gone. Those are the things that we're working on right now, trying to say, how can we open a school district back up that resembles anything we loved about the school district? How do we work through those issues? They're complicated. So respectfully, I'm receiving emails and messages from people saying, well, just do this, just do that. There's no just do anything. We're in a collective bargaining state in California. So there are things that even if we wanted to implement tomorrow, we'd have to bargain and go through a process with our teachers, with our classified staff. And that those rules are there for a reason, but it doesn't make things go faster. It makes them go slower. We are looking at things like planning at elementary schools for MP rooms to be kind of off limits and converted over into flexible learning space during the day. That gives us 12 more learning centers right away. Our middle schools may open without their gyms in use because we may need those as computer labs or some other flexible spaces. We're negotiating several different things with the city of Palo Alto. We've been public about our desire to retain Ventura Elementary School. It's been a city property for decades now. We're talking about the possibility of trying to do something to get that back in our possession, to provide additional space for students in places where we need it. We're looking at Coverly. Not only do we have a lease problem with the city for Coverly, but it's also a lot of building space over there that maybe we can use differently. So we're really having to dig through layers of issues. Elementary school principal asked our group today, what's our primary focus in reopening? Is it to get people back, or is it to provide high-level instruction? And I'd like to say yes to both, but I'd say us, like every other school district that's really being honest, is struggling with that. It's a fundamental question. Will we reopen potentially partially or more virtual, and say with a straight face that there'll be no additional learning loss and we will be high functioning? Today, the answer is no. And I think anyone out there that's saying anything other than the answer is no in any other place is taking some liberties with the reality. This is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for a while. We're trying to figure out things like how to make sure that a K first, second grader can read and be at or near or above grade level entering third and fourth grade. That job is hard on a best day. And now we've got this. So I am optimistic about the people we have in place. I'm optimistic about the spirit of the people I see in the meetings, whether it's our teachers, our classified, our principals, our district team, our Board of Education. I think there's hope, but there are some real challenges, and we're going to have to work through those together. Well, I want to get to our guest and see what we can learn from some people today and get another glimpse of optimism. So Wendy Stratton, I'm going to tell you to start getting ready, Wendy. I'm going to introduce you here in just a second. Wendy Stratton is going to be the new principal of Gunn High School. 22 years in education, a former instructional lead, former athletic director, assistant principal in 2 districts, including our own. One of the people I would classify as an equity warrior, wants to grow some roots. In fact, that's going to be a theme you're going to hear from both of our new principals. Really dig in here and be a part of our team for a while. I'll tell you, with both of our principals also, we've included them in all of our recent principal meetings. So they've been in everything that our current principals have been in. They're part of our discussions. They have every document. We're in constant communication. They're going to hit the ground running, or at least a good solid jog. I don't know if anyone's running during these times, but I'd like to start with an introduction from each of them. They were robbed of this opportunity, usually afforded to new principals at our board meetings, to be on camera and introduce themselves to everybody. And unfortunately for them, that was hitting right in the heart of our closures. But I'm going to turn it over now and introduce you to new Gunn High School principal, Wendy Stratton. So Wendy, it's all you.
Hi, thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for that introduction, Don. Your words resonated so much with me as a kinesthetic person. I just crave, ever since I was so honored to get this job, to just run laps around all of the buildings at Gunn High and, look at every physical structure. That's what I've been craving: meet every person, shake hands, give hugs, get to know people face to face. That is who I am. I'm definitely, I have a background in athletics. My dad took me very seriously as an athlete at age 3 in Connecticut, teaching me how to dribble a ball, throw a football, play tennis, every sport. And I took that through my life as a driver. And so as I was hearing Don talk, I thought that is sort of my angle. I am a kinesthetic person. And I am driven by movement and learning. So I know that our students crave those opportunities. I found myself, my family moved to Chicago. I went to New Trier High, a very similar demographic, yet in the north side of Chicago. And then sought out the North Marin area, Northern California, as a young adult myself. Found myself in the Tamalpais High School Union District and stayed there. As Don said, I like to be deeply part of a community and know it well. And I don't think systemic change is possible for a leader that's not intimately aware of everyone and everything happening within a system. So I hugely crave to be part of this community. I'm very excited. There's so much more I could say, but I don't want to take up other people's time, and thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you. And we'll come back to you in just a moment. So next, our new Paly, Palo Alto High School principal, Brent Klein. is coming to us with 26 years experience in education, including some time that I thought was really interesting as the ultimate coach, the band director. And if anybody is a person that understands the importance of bringing a team together and first learning the music and then trying to play it together and somewhere down the road sounding good together, it's a successful band director. Loves being a high school principal, 17 years experience as a high school principal already, and excited about coming and joining the team here in Palo Alto. So Mr. Klein, why don't you go ahead and take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Don. Well, I'm going to start where you kind of started in terms of my musical experience. Because as a band director or conductor, the most important thing that you created was relationships, and you created those relationships not only as a human factor but as a musician. Early on in my career as a principal, I took that with me, because as a principal, you not only guide and build relationships because they absolutely matter, but within those relationships in that community that you build as a leader is that individual. And there's nothing more important than the individual and the group that kind of go hand in hand. Everybody matters. Being a high school principal, as I told Don and Wendy earlier, if you're preparing for this, it's the ultimate job. It's a wonderful job. You got to try it someday. But people think I'm crazy when I say that, because why would you want to continue being a high school principal? I want to continue, and I want to grow, and I want to learn different experiences. And this is next year is the year to do that. Ultimately, I thought it was just going to Paly that was going to give me that ultimate change and freshness, but it's now under such bizarre and unusual circumstances that it's going to be even more of a, I don't want to say a challenge, but it's going to be a great opportunity for me as a leader to bring what I've learned and to see what can happen in terms of moving forward. Historically, I know that Paly has some wonderful traditions and things that have inspired several people within the community, and that's an important piece as I take the realm, and is to try to maintain that as much as possible, and to really step back and to give people the opportunity to share their voice. And I look forward to that, not only with the students, who are my most important one that I can't wait to talk to. I've spoken to a couple virtually or online, but I can't wait to get there and to check them out, to really listen from what students need, and to develop an action so that we can coordinate that and make their voice heard. And it continues as well, because as Don said, Wendy and I have been able to join and to get to know some of the district folks. And I've also in other meetings got to meet with some of the high school Paly instructional leaders and some of the teachers there. And I'm super excited to be part of that, to bring that teaching community together as well, and to listen to what their needs are, and to continue to move forward and change it up, because we're going to have to, and that's all we have. And so I'm looking forward to, let's do it. Let's bring it on, and let this tragedy, let's turn it into something that can benefit all of us, and to see what we can change to improve education for all kids.
Brent, I want to ask you and Wendy the same question, but you're going to lead off with us, Brent, then we'll go to Wendy. What's a challenge or two during the closure that's making your transition tougher than you would have imagined just a few months ago when there was no closure? You knew you were going to a new school in a new role. What's been a challenge for you?
It's the challenge is that I've already been there. It's that physical connection that we don't have right now. It's only virtual. All of us right now are experiencing that same thing. So that is the big challenge, because I am, the fist bump, handshake, and whatever it is, and to connect with people and to really motivate that way. And we're missing that. But we're trying to figure it out differently. So I'm just missing that physical contact and ability to meet people.
And my
Same question, Wendy.
Yeah, I think that nobody can quite understand who hasn't been an administrator at a high school with, over 2,000 people pursuing learning and passions in their own ways, and being deprived of that environment it's like an orchestra with so many moving parts, not having those spontaneous moments of walking through a classroom and the surprises that occur. I miss that. I feel deprived of those magical moments that really do occur every day on the high school campus.
Wendy, let's just stick with you for a minute. So what's an opportunity? What's something that you were really interested in knowing more about Gunn High School? You got the job, you did your research, you went through a challenging process, but you just really want to know more about something at Gunn. Anything off the top of your head?
Well, what comes to mind really is, I think of the opportunity within this moment. What can we derive from this moment? It's definitely a challenge in so many ways, but as an athlete, I always see through the through line to opportunity. And what is it that we need to know and learn right now that we could improve the outcomes for students at Gunn? So there's got to be something. And so I'm spending a lot of time thinking, like, what is there to learn? What should we grab hold of and carry forward? And I wonder what our community at Gunn has to say about that, what the students think about that. So I really want to debrief this moment in time with our community.
Well, there's going to be plenty of debriefing, I can assure you. So, Brent, same question. What are you looking to know more about with Paly?
I would start with the teaching community first, and I'd like to know what they've learned in these few short weeks on how to connect with kids differently. And what is it that we can bring from that distance experience, and soon, hopefully, when we're able to get back into classrooms and stuff, what can be brought back, and so that we can incorporate both of these learning environments together. In the same breath, I'd like to listen to the kids about what their experiences were on the flip side. Currently I'm the principal at Santa Cruz High School, and we have students continuing to do their student news broadcast. It's twice a month, but it's just, you can just see their loss of they're lost. They've lost that connection that they have with so many people. And I think that's going to be an opportunity to rebuild that with all kids in all high schools. Is how do you bring that sense of community back quickly, because it's been disrupted overnight. March 13th, I think that day was that we ended school. So I think there's a lot of challenges to both on the students and the teachers, but hopefully, especially with teachers, I think that they've learned a lot, because I know that they're all just working 24/7 on this new opportunity to teach kids, and hopefully that will be a benefit in the long run.
Now, just so you know, I've volunteered you both for any and all PTA request for your presence, and I'm sure there are other people out there that are in groups that may have similar thoughts. I got to tell you, I want to speak for both of you for just a second. The Zoom meetings are, and we should just say that the virtual meetings, we happen to use Zoom, are exhausting. And they're exhausting for a lot of reasons. In fact, there's a lot of research about that that's coming out right now. And you spoke about the mental health piece. I think it's important that we continue to connect with families and students, but part of what I think we need to get our head around, and I'd be happy if either of you had a thought on this. If not, it's okay right now. How we get out of just these video meetings and get to something that feels more normal, or maybe on the back end when the curtain is lifted a little bit. Do either of you have any thoughts about what that might look like, or have you started wrapping your head around how to make connections that don't look like what we're doing tonight?
in a big room with 6 feet in between each other, right? I mean, that's all we got right now. And I can't believe it. I yearn to, I'm dying to meet with people physically, because these meetings have been draining, and especially when you're on them constantly. Um, yeah, so it's as simple as that, right? But we don't know what the rules are yet, and they keep changing in the speculation dome. So who knows?
I think this moment in time has sort of revealed what we take for granted, and it's shown me how much I love people and how much I get from being around people. And so I think I've learned a lot about myself and my own needs by being deprived.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw an article today about what it means to be an extrovert, and it was not that you're necessarily outgoing and the clown at a party, but it means that that's where you draw your energy from, is from others and people. I think by the end of this, we're going to have a lot more extroverts. A lot of people are missing those contacts.
Yeah.
Wendy and Brent, is there a final thought that you want to share before we transition over to the next phase of tonight?
You know, I'm frustrated and I'm motivated at the same time. You know, I'm frustrated that what I know as what a high school is and what a high school principal can do, I can't do that anymore, and it's frustrating. I can't meet with the seniors right now, and I can't inspire them about what they're doing. We just couldn't. You know, you can't do what you used to. But in the same breath, it motivates me to look at doing things differently, because that's the only way that we can do things. And just looking up to an openness of looking at things through different lenses rather, and talking with people with their different perceptions, and try to see what we can do collectively. So it's tough, but it's going to be doable. I believe that.
Yeah, I'd say it's like watching a game from the sidelines when you want to be playing the game.
Yeah.
And I guess the bonus is that, you know, as a new leader at Gunn, there's a lot of opportunity for me to reflect and to learn and to listen. That's invaluable, and I feel that it's a gift that this time has brought. But I'm just ready to go. I don't want to sit on the sidelines anymore. I am not a spectator athlete. I want to go. I want to jump in, and I need this. I'm waiting for this to change up. But thank you.
Well, I think you both just summed up the feelings of a lot of people in the country right now, but glad to have you both on the team. Thank you both for joining tonight. Really appreciate your time. So we're going to transition here in just a second to Josh Spira. And Josh, Josh is a 14-year veteran teacher at Greene Middle School, where he's been in the math department for all of that time. Also grew up and attended and graduated from Paly High School. And at my the first Backstage with the Soup, I said, gosh, you know, I'd sure like to have a teacher on here. And Josh on the spot sent me an email and said he'd be happy to. And I asked Josh to come on tonight and just to talk to everyone about what it's like to be a teacher during this time here in our district, and give that perspective as well. And Josh, I really, really appreciate you being on with us today, and for the part you're going to take. I know you've got a presentation, then we're going to have a couple questions for you as well. But Josh, all you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Austin. And thanks to everyone who's watching this webinar here. Just going to wait 1 second to make sure my slides pop up. Okay. And let's see here. Okay. So my name is Josh Spira, and I'm a middle school math teacher at Greene Middle School. And my presentation is pretty short. So I'm obviously not going to be able to get to everything that we've been doing as teachers during this period, but rather provide a short summary. Next slide, please. So some of the key points are that I'd like to go through are listed on the screen. And the first one that I wanted to talk about was that mental health is paramount. And we really need to make sure that the basic human needs of our students are met before we can expect any learning to occur. And just to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of our students and families are in situations now that are very different from even 6 weeks ago. And so that's kind of the overarching theme that we take into consideration as teachers during this period. Uh, Teaching is so fundamentally about human connection, and we really need to maintain our connections with students and families now more than ever. So we're using all of the communication tools provided to us by the district in order to make sure that we can check in with students and with families and provide feedback. And a lot of online learning systems that we have are being used by all of our teachers every day. And let's see here. Next point is that we are still providing access to really rich and diverse learning opportunities because students are entitled to that. They're entitled to an interesting curriculum and teacher feedback and all kinds of delivered through different media. And I'll get to a little bit more of that in just a sec. We want to make sure that we strike the right balance, and we don't want to overload students and families. Doing work online and more self-directed than before is a challenge, and we need to make sure that we're not giving our students too much work and that we're not overloading students and their families. So last thing on this slide is just to recognize that, and Dr. Austin talked about this a few minutes ago, when we return back to campus, we don't know how things are going to look. We could have a hybrid model, we might go back to school and then be pulled back to distance learning for a while. So we just want to make sure that we remain nimble, and we're going to be ready to educate our students, whether if it's back in the traditional classroom or in this model that we're in now, or some kind of a hybrid model. Next slide, please. Some curricular decisions that we've made is to, well, I think the most important one is to focus on essential standards. The nature of distance learning is so different than the kind of teaching and learning that we're used to. And we've really had to change the way that we think about teaching and learning. This means a little bit less volume, more support and feedback, and helping students to develop a deeper understanding, but perhaps of only the essential standards. So we're going to be focusing on those types of standards that are building blocks for future success, and making sure that we really make sure that students are prepared for when they return to school and that they're ready to move on to the next level. We've also been really working together in teams in order to align our curriculum and have common assessments, common course materials, and our teams of teachers working in their PLCs, which stands for Professional Learning Communities. We meet at least once a week, and we're developing and creating learning opportunities and activities together. And I really think that there's a great synergy going on. I've been really grateful for the math team that I've gotten to work with. We've been doing some awesome stuff. As far as the delivery of instruction and instructional materials, we've been simplifying things a bit, shortening the length of videos and lessons that we deliver. This just is to take into account attention span. And we also want to make sure that students are still able to take notes, whether it's during a video lecture, just like it would be during class. And if we can really target our instruction and get to the point and have our instructional pieces being pieced out in a little bit more of a consumable way, it's going to be much better for learning during this period. Distance learning doesn't mean that everything is happening online. Lots of your children's teachers are making sure that they're providing access to content and learning opportunities that aren't only in front of the screen. And you've all seen this at home, hopefully, and we're continuing to try to make sure that all of the instruction that we're delivering isn't just, hey, look at the computer screen, because as was alluded to before, again, it's much more draining than doing face-to-face or doing paper and pencil. And as a math teacher, whenever I do my Zoom office hours, I make sure to say, hey, make sure you have your paper ready, your graph paper, your pencil, your ruler, etc. So that's really important. Last thing on this slide is that we are providing opportunities for extension. And we really want the students who are eager to further explore material and willing to be able to stretch themselves a bit and to access different kinds of material. So teachers are providing that as well. Next slide, please. On a personal note, I really miss seeing my students and my colleagues and the wonderful parents that I get to work with. We get into teaching because teaching is a social endeavor, and we love teaching because of the connections that we get to make. And so this period has been really hard on me, and I know it's been hard on a lot of teachers to just not be able to see our students and to not be able to see our coworkers and the community feeling that's, I don't want to say it's gone because it's not, but it's just different. And so that's something that I've been working through. And it's been a challenge because I am a social person, an extrovert. That's where I get my energy from. We are gonna always make sure that we provide the best educational opportunities for all of our students during this time. Even though things feel really different, we still have the same mission. We're educating all of our students to the best of our ability. I can tell you right now, the best part of my day is when I have my Zoom office hours with my students and I get to actually do some teaching and see them and interact. So that's been really, really fun. And I appreciate having access to Zoom as a teaching tool right now because I feel like it's one of the best tools that we have currently. Like I said before, I've been working tirelessly with my colleagues to plan material, connect with all of my students. There's really a lot of constant behind the scenes work going on that a lot of people aren't aware of. I'm always in meetings with my colleagues, and so is every other PAUSD teacher. And we're always looking for ways to improve. So that's why we do this work. We want to make sure that tomorrow we're better than we were today. That's a big part of the game here. And it goes without saying that I can't wait to be back in the classroom. And I'm almost done here. I just have one more slide. If you could go to the next slide, please. I just had some final thoughts. So please continue to help your child with their work to the best of your ability. As we all know, education is a partnership between students and teachers and parents and communities. And we need to make sure that we don't lose that during this period, but rather that we strengthen it and that we work together. We are one big village for our children here. All of your children's teachers are here to help, and we want to help. So please don't hesitate to contact any of us if your child needs help with accessing material or with actual content. We're still here working as hard as ever to provide all of these educational opportunities for the PAUSD students, and a lot of us are doing this while we're homeschooling our own children or hoping that our babies are going down for naps so that we can have our Zoom sessions and dealing with a lot of the anxieties that all of you are dealing with. So we're working really hard, and we really appreciate all the support. And then, lastly, we are, as teachers and administrators and the wider school community, we're the rocks for our students and for our children. And we need to let them know that when we work together and when we care about each other, we can get through things, and together we will get through this. And I not only believe, but I know that when we're on the other side of this, things are going to be even better. So thanks for your time, and I appreciate you listening to one teacher's thoughts.
Well, Josh, thank you for that. And unfortunately for you, you're not done, because I've got a few questions for you.
Sounds good.
All right. So our questions come in themes, and I understand some people wish that we had question and answers on here tonight, but I can assure you we have enough emails and correspondence to know what some of the hot topics are. So First one, this one is just a personal question. Is there anything specific besides just a general connections answer that you miss kind of the most now versus 4 months ago? 4 months ago, you're in a classroom, you kind of knew what it looked like. What's something that you wish you could put back in place today?
Well, other than the impossible, which would be being back in the classroom, I mean, for me, it's really trying to construct different environments where I can get the students to interact with each other, because learning is such a social thing. It's really something that happens through communication. And so for me, in my classroom, everything's set up in groups and the students communicate with each other. And what I wish that I could do and what I really miss is just being able to facilitate and set up different scenarios where the students are working together and learning with and from each other. I think that's the thing that I miss the most.
It's a good one. Just to get a sense of what a typical week looks like. I know typical is relative now,
Yeah.
but in an average week, like how many emails and connections and requests for stuff do you get from, there's going to be two parts to this. Let's make it three. From your students, from the parents, and then from everyone else requesting a meeting that isn't one of those two groups.
Sure. Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, from the stuff coming in from the students is interesting because for anyone who isn't aware of our online learning system, Schoology, you get alerts in a variety of different ways, whether it's students submitting a quiz or participating in a discussion board, sending you a message. So there's that, and then I'm also, as a math teacher, I'm using our Big Ideas Math online textbook. So I'm getting and then emails. So getting a lot of messages or pings from students in various ways, probably hundreds of times a day, depending on whether it's, so-and-so submitted a quiz or so-and-so replied to the discussion board. So there's all that kind of stuff. And then there's obviously all the stuff coming from my coworkers. So we're constantly meeting and planning meetings and sending out curriculum, and we develop our online ROLE, required online learning experience folders together, and we kind of work on that over the course of the week, and then we meet. So I don't even know, dozens from coworkers, and then from parents, not as many, to be honest, from parents as from the students. Which I think is great because it means that a lot of our students are taking their learning into their own hands. But I always appreciate the when parents reach out for some kind of clarification, or if because we all have the same goals, to help these kids learn as much as possible.
Just two more questions. Some people are asking, this is a common question I'm getting. When are we going to offer, I'm just going to air quote it, I hate air quotes, but online courses. So what do you say to a parent? And I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of all teachers on the planet. I'm just your answer, who believes online learning has to be face-to-face, live, synchronous instruction. Yeah,
well, I think that that's definitely one way you can do online learning, but it's certainly not the only way. It's really a kind of a logistical challenge, if you will, to expect that all people can be accessing at the same time. That's why I've been really appreciative of the fact that we have had an asynchronous model with childcare on both ends, with parent and teacher, and being able to access and device and bandwidth. I'm not sure how set up we are for that right now. And I don't think it's the only way that students can learn. And I don't think it's the only way they should learn. That also is really going to be much more of a direct instruction model, where if a teacher's up there lecturing on Zoom, that's great. But we also want to make sure that we're allowing for collaborative learning, which might mean that students are working together on the sidelines, and they're coming back. And I can certainly assess and teach students, in ways other than all being on a Zoom at the same time. So I think it varies.
Okay. Last question for you, and great job tonight, by the way. Thank you again so much for being on.
Thank you.
What is something that if we reopened in 3 weeks, no restrictions, everyone, we were just joking, come on back. What's something you've learned through this experience that you will keep in place even when we return to something normal?
That's such a great question. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is just to appreciate every day that you get to be out in the world interacting with other people. And for us teachers, being able to be in the classroom and working with our students it's a huge opportunity. It's a wonderful thing. And you don't really realize how much you cherish that until it's kind of taken away from you, like it is right now. And so that's definitely the thing that I've learned most. And just a quick sort of secondary answer to that is I've definitely gotten a lot better at using all of our online learning systems because necessity, and we have to. This is what we have right now.
All right, Josh, I really appreciate it tonight. Great job. I'm gonna call it a night for you so you can get back to answering emails and looking at Schoology notifications. That sounds like good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks again, Josh.
All right, bye everybody.
All right, just finishing up on a few things. Josh and I had done a little preparation, and one thing, if he said, he didn't say as clearly as he did when it was the two of us. He, like all of our teachers and all of our people that are still in the middle of things, are working their guts out. These guys are working so hard right now, trying to put the best thing that they can in front of our students. And yeah, I tell you, I talked to all the school district superintendents in the region and up and down the state. And in 14 minutes, I've got a call with the executive director for the entire state, every administrator in the state. And we all have the same struggles. We're all working through it. And people like Josh and so many others have just been the light. They're the reason that we're going to end up getting through this. Now, I do want to share a couple things. This is not all great news, but that's why you're here. We have some fiscal issues that are coming our direction. We're not alone in this. In fact, we're probably as well prepared as most districts, if not on the better end, the top tier, but still, we had some local things that have happened that are going to impact our budget or potentially impact us, and we need to call them out. Our parcel tax renewal was pulled from the May ballot. Made sense for it's actually March. Sorry, pulled for all the reasons that we don't need to go back over. I guess it was May. So we decided against doing an August mail-in. We are going to be doing some polling here in the second half of June, probably, to look at a November option. But practically speaking, I need to tell you what that means to us. And by the way, the rules about us not being able to talk about a parcel tax are off now because we have officially withdrawn our parcel tax. So it's not a campaign speech, but it is is an information item. If we don't renew our parcel tax, we're looking at $15 million hit to our budget. That's significant. We're about a $257 million a year budget. $15 million equates to about 120 positions, roughly speaking. That's a big deal. And we have to figure out what that's going to look like. Then very publicly, the city talked about their issues, and they have significant issues as well, different, and it impacts the city and services differently than us, but important nonetheless. One of the things that they brought up was our lease with Coverly. In a worst case scenario, which I do not expect, but a worst case scenario would be a termination of the lease. That would be a $5.5 million hit to the school district almost overnight, coupled with some now uncertainty around parcel tax. Put those two together, it's over $20 million. When things were looking good at one point not long ago, looked like the parcel tax, it was polling well. We were feeling pretty good about it. And there was no issue really with the Coverly lease. Now both are not true. Well, I don't know what the polling is, but both are not as solid as they once were. Tax assessors are issuing warnings. Who knows what's going to happen to real estate and home values, and who reassesses and who does what across the state. And the wild card is we have no idea right now what the state of California is going to do. In fact, either does the state of California, which is why they've just told us that instead of a traditional May revise, which is kind of the part where you really set your budget, they're already telling us there's going to be an August revise. Well, for us, we start school in August, and it'd be kind of like receiving a syllabus for a course that you're in college with a few weeks left in the school year. Our time to build the budget is now. In fact, we are now behind for this year. It has to be final in June, and we're going to have to make some really tough decisions. So just some foreshadowing of some decisions we're going to have to make, some things that are going to be challenging, especially in light of not having all the information, because all the information doesn't exist in one place. I'm going to reiterate one thing, though. We're going to come out of this better than we went into it. And I don't mean on day one. I don't mean one day we're open the doors and people look around and say, wait a minute, he said we're going to come out of this better. I mean, in the future, guys like Josh who are learning and picking things that are going to work, are going to make us better. Thinking about some flexible options for students. I'm not so sure about social distancing. I'm not so sure what that's going to look like. But options for students, that's going to be a winner for us. We're going to come out of this better. If we rethink about how we share resources and time, we're going to be better. I've asked our associations to join us. We're going to have to think about, I'm not going to have to think about, we're going to have to develop and implement a common bell schedule for our high schools, minimum. Well, one thing the closure showed us, there's no way to pool all resources, to share teachers, to possibly have traditional high school components, but also having a blended learning or a third option, and then have our two high schools, to no fault of their own, because a few months ago it was less of a big deal, but to have our two high schools look like two different school districts, it's just not the way we're going to be able to operate. So in some places, we're going to have to increase flexibility. In some places, we're going to have to be a little more coherent, a little more consistent, look a little more alike than different. So picking and choosing those areas, it's going to be a challenge, but I think we've got the people, the engagement to do it at the highest level that school districts can be expected to operate. Our next backstage with the superintendent next week will be elementary focused. We're also going to try to get some of our behind the scenes classified workers in to talk to you about what that looks like and what education looks like right now for elementary and some of the challenges we're thinking about moving forward. We hit on a few of those in the morning, or in the beginning, feels like the morning, in the beginning of this, but we're going to circle back hard next Monday. So thank you all for checking in with us tonight. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everyone out there doing the best they can do in every role that they have. And that includes our parents who are trying to parent and teach and do things at the same time, our students who are remaining engaged, and everybody else in between. So thank you. Have a great night, and we'll see you again next week.